What is going on, warriors? It is hot outside. Anytime I do this, you know it's hot outside today, so I'm feeling good. I'm actually sweating my ass off. And if you guys notice, I always talk about the weather. If you guys are on my channel, you guys know how I do, because it's always cold out here. But this is probably the 1 month out of 12 months where we get something hot. It's June. So we got lucky today. We'll see if it lasts. But today, guys, we're gonna dive right in. I'm gonna show you guys some strategies that maybe you haven't thought of when it comes to managing your blood sugars overall, lowering your A1C by controlling your basal rate. So if it's your first time on the channel, I help diabetics to build muscle, burn fat, and control their blood sugars overall, lower their A1Cs, and thrive through diabetes. Now, if you're not a diabetic, that's okay, because I still do supplement reviews as well on a lot of natural supplements. I also share my life as well. So if you guys are interested in that, I do food reviews as well. So even if you're not diabetic, but you enjoy it, appreciate stuff like that, smash that subscribe button. You guys know what to do. Our basal rate is our long-acting insulin, or our basal that we take from our insulin pump, which just uses short-acting insulin or rapid-acting insulin like Humalog or Novolog to give you a steady state of insulin every hour. And so you might program to have maybe 1 unit every hour or 0.8 units every hour. Whereas for long-acting insulin, your basal rate is going to be a long-acting insulin, something like Lantus, for example. If your blood sugars, you're finding your blood sugars are all over the place, it could be important for you to first look at your basal rate to see if that is zeroed in. Because once we understand the basal rate, that can help us to understand other things, for example, like the insulin to carb ratio, dive into the correction ratios too. I like to focus on getting the basal rate done first, and then we dive into the other stuff after. So if we're doing our basal rate and we really want to know if it's working for us, you first want to start off by fasting. Let's say you give yourself your insulin or your long-acting insulin at night. So it might be at, let's say, 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. Then you're going to want to fast the next day until about 3 p.m. or 4 p.m. If you can fast the next day until 3 p.m. or 4 p.m., you're not eating anything, you're also not training or working out, you don't want to do anything that could potentially interfere with the results you're getting by introducing things like food and short-acting insulin in different doses. So we don't want anything to interfere with the results. So that's why you don't want to work out, because that can interfere. Don't do it on the days that you're sick, because your cortisol levels are going to be high. That can spike blood sugar as well. Give yourself your nighttime insulin at night. Start your fast up until about 3 p.m., 4 p.m. The later you can go, the better, but I'd say minimum 3 p.m., 4 p.m. And when you get to 3 p.m. or 4 p.m., know where your blood sugar is. If your basal rate is working for you, your blood sugar should stay pretty much in normal ranges. If you notice that you're going higher throughout the fast up until 3 p.m. and you haven't had anything on board, you're not really necessarily stressed out, and you haven't worked out, and this happens consistently, let's say you run this test twice or 3 times, and you notice that your blood sugars are consistently high, then we know your basal rate is likely too low. Same thing with your basal rate on both levels is likely too low. So if you're on an insulin pump, maybe if you're a 0.8, maybe you want to increase that by 1 or 2 units, right? 1 unit's on the safe side, 2 units, I say don't go over 2 units for the most part, just as a general guideline. If you're on long-acting insulin like Lantus, increase by 1 or 2 units and see if that helps to bring it down. Right? The other thing is, if you end up going a little bit low, you start dipping low, then we know, okay, maybe your units are too high, and then you could decrease that. Now, you could probably generally know this already. Like if you're already going in a low blood sugar consistently all the time throughout the night, no matter what you do, then you already could probably just dive right in and just decrease that dosage when it comes to your insulin pump. So for example, you decrease it by 0.1. If you're at a 1, you could decrease to 0.9 or 0.8. If you're at on a basal rate and you're taking 10 units or 20 units, whatever it is, then you just decrease that. At 20 units, we're going to decrease that to 18 or 19, and then at 10 units, decrease it to 9 or 10. And that can help you, and you want to keep wiggling this and running the fast until you find a solution and your blood sugar starts to be stable. The reason why you want to fast past the morning and into the afternoon is we want to see if the dawn phenomenon effect is also impacting your basal ratios. The dawn phenomenon effect is just the natural circadian rhythm of cortisol, which tends to spike around 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning, and for some people goes around 10, 11 a.m. in my experiences that we see. And so what I would say is to go past that to see if you're actually going high as a result of the dawn phenomenon effect, or if you're still good to go. Some people don't have this impact and you're good, and then you can end up dragging it out to the afternoon and see what happens. That way we have the ratio in the morning, we've got more of the ratio in the afternoon leading into the evening as well, and you get more data, you can make better decisions, and you can tweak things as you go along. Real quick, guys, just as a side note too, if you are a diabetic and you want to join our Diabetic Body Mastery Program, we're actually helping diabetics all around the world right now lower their A1Cs, build muscle, burn body fat, and just crush it overall. So if that's something you're interested in, you feel like you need some more one-on-one guidance, make sure you guys apply below. Hit the link, I'll put it in the description. You guys can apply for that. I'll definitely see it, and I definitely got you guys covered regardless. If you have questions, make sure you drop them in the comments, or shoot me an email. I'm gonna leave my information in the description as well. Keep crushing it no matter what, keep thriving. and I got you guys back. This is a game of tweaking as you go. Find out what works, be mindful of where your blood sugar is, and this can allow you to keep narrowing the gap until you find a path that's gonna work right for you. And the other thing is, if your blood sugar, again, if you are on an insulin pump, and if let's say, for example, you notice the dawn phenomenon effect and you end up running high, for example, now you could probably tweak, and this is a pattern that consistently happens for you, then you could set a different ratio between that dawn phenomenon impact in the morning to increase that slightly on an insulin pump, and then set a separate basal rate that lowers that towards the afternoon and evening when the natural circadian rhythm of cortisol isn't as high, right? So this is how you can tweak certain things to find something that works. Now, if you're on a long-acting insulin, you notice you're one of those people, because some people find, or they're higher in the morning and they end up being normal during the day. But if they were to increase their long-acting insulin, because you only get one shot if you're taking a 24-hour, and you might run into a situation of, if I increase now that Lantus by 1 or 2 units, and my goal is to drop that dawn phenomena impact, because the long-acting insulin gives you a consistent impact throughout the 24 hours, or it's supposed to at least, then what you're gonna find is that you might end up going lower where you were normal before. Now, one of the things you could try is to see if you're doing anything else that's causing that dawn phenomenon effect to be worse. So for example, are you eating close to bed, a lot of carbohydrates, or any carbohydrates at all? Because that could cause the spike as well. Are you stressed out? Do you have anything else going on? But definitely don't eat close to bed, and try to maybe stop and cut that off 2 to 3 hours prior to bed. Cut off the eating and see if that helps to stabilize the blood sugars, because you might produce less of a release of glucose in those morning hours when cortisol and glucagon is released, which could help to lower that dawn phenomenon effect that happens. Again, the reason why is because if you're eating carbohydrates prior to you going to sleep, then your bodies can store those as glycogen around the liver, and now when your body releases that cortisol and glucagon in the early hours in the morning, then it's going to tap more into that glycogen stores that was stored, since you're not going to be as active. And then remember, when you're sleeping, you're not as active. Now, the other thing you can do, if you start noticing just a difference in higher blood sugars in the morning, normal blood sugars in the evening, and then if, let's say, for example, again, you increase the Lantus because you want to get lower blood sugars as a result of the dawn phenomenon effect, but if you do increase the Lantus, then what ends up happening is you might also find you're going low now in the evening instead of staying normal. And so in that case, you might want to see if that consistently happens and you've troubleshot everything else and it's still giving you an issue. See if you can go to your doctor and ask if you can separate, get a 2-shot insulin, right? So you could separate those shots, and you have to go to your doctor, see if you can get these 2 shots. And now instead you give yourself 1 shot, let's say in the evening, and then 1 shot in the morning or the afternoon. And so you could have a little bit more wiggle room as to how you're controlling your blood sugars as well. So that's another option for you as well. So I hope this helped you guys out when it comes to setting your basal rate. If you guys have any questions, drop them down below. I got you guys covered. It's Coach Jay. Let me know. I appreciate you guys for sticking. If you made it this far to the end of the video, man, I appreciate you. You're a real one. I'll see you guys in the next episode.